It's a special honor for me to speak about Henlee Barnette, particularly when there are so many of you in this room who could speak more eloquently and even accurately than I. Henlee Barnette spent 70 years of his life seeking to communicate and demonstrate the ethical imperatives of the gospel to parishioners, students, and the larger scholarly world. It did not matter very much where Henlee was, whether it was starting a new church in Kannapolis, North Carolina as a new convert, or serving rural immigrants in the Haymarket region of the inner city of Louisville as the pastor superintendent of the Union Gospel Mission, helping start the first interracial pastors conference in Birmingham, Alabama in the 1940s, teaching thousands of students at Howard College, Stetson University, and Southern Seminary, or writing understandable books that translated the foundational principles of the biblical story into ideas that would work in the modern world. Whether it was communism, basic Christian ethics, ecology, Clarence Jordan, or the dilemmas posed by situation ethics or the technologies of medicine, Henlee had a way of speaking truth to power in ways that were clear and workable. He never lost his Appalachian roots, even when communicating the insights of Luther, Brunner, Fletcher, Tillich, or James Luther Adams. I first met Henlee Barnette by reading his Introducing Christian Ethics as my textbook in the first class in ethics I ever took under Bill Pinson at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I was captured by the power of his ability to state the prophetic vision of Scripture in ways that made sense in the practicalities of the world with the social agendas with which we lived in the 1960s. Reading it made me want to know him and work with him. So I applied to Southern Seminary for graduate study to learn more from this prophetic practitioner. But that was never to be. When I arrived at Southern, I discovered he had a full contingent of PhD students. Henlee was not very big on keeping up with administrative trivia. So Providence would lead me to study with Nolan Howington and Willis Bennett instead. But during that first year, he asked me to serve as his Garrett Fellow, grading papers for his MDiv course in Christian ethics. So I sat in the course, I watched, and I learned. What emerged was a mentorship in civil rights for which I shall ever be grateful. He was not just a teacher, he was an activist. The next year he gave my name to Dr. Willie Holmes, president of Simmons University Bible College, an African American school in Louisville, who employed me to teach Introduction to Christian Ethics, my first venture in teaching. The second semester, he asked me to serve as dean of the college, a largely honorific title, to work on Bible college accreditation for the school. 40 years later, I'm still trying to learn how to teach Christian ethics and still working on accreditation as a member of McAfee's self-study committee. But through that experience, I met many wonderful people, including Emmanuel and Marie McCall, who walked Sue and me from a Simmons baccalaureate during the H. Rap Brown riots in Louisville to our car a month before she would deliver our first child. When the City Council of Louisville was debating open housing ordinances, he asked me to go to the demonstrations outside City Hall, and my eyes were opened. I was nervous as the police barricaded us from entering City Hall, only to have the press of the crowd press through the doors. Then I was scared, but Henlee just laughed. He called one evening in March 1968 to tell me Martin Luther King would be preaching at the West Chestnut Baptist Church the next evening. He couldn't go, but I went, was inspired, and marched the streets of Louisville that night as we sang, "We Shall Overcome." I shall ever be grateful for his thoughtfulness in making a call to a graduate student that would change my life. There is so much to say about this man. He was deceptive. He could sit quietly in a graduate colloquium, seeming to rest his eyes as students presented their papers, only to lift his head at a salient point and offer what Luther or Ramsay or Brunner or Tillich might offer on the subject. He was ever the gentle nurturer of scholarly thought in a non-threatening and affirming manner. His lectures were a mix of thoughtful historical insights from the thinkers of the church to plain stories of action by a North Carolina mill worker, by Clarence Jordan at Koinonia Farms, a local politician, or a black pastor in the city. He seemed to know them all.